Hi BookTube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. I'm here, of course, joined by my husband Jason of Old Blues Chapter and Verse. And we are reading A Whole Life in 12 Movies and watching the movies. This is one of the months where there were 2 movies. The first one is Smoke Signals, which came out in 1998. And we actually own the DVD of it. And the other one is a documentary called The Seventh Fire, which came out in 2015 and is currently streaming on Peacock. Smoke Signals is streaming on Pluto. Is that right?
I don't know. I think so.
I think that's what you said. Anyway, so this chapter is supposed to be about community and per usual, this is the third video we've made in this series, and we're really struggling a lot with the things that the authors have to say about the films. Part of me feels like we should write a book like this.
Yeah. This book, so I know I've said this before, but it really does feel like a first draft of a book. It really does feel that each month rolled around and okay, let's talk about this film or these films, and then one of the writers just dashed off an email to the other writer, and that writer dashed off an email to the first writer, and then they just put their emails together, and that's the chapter. And it's just, I don't know, the writing itself is just incredibly lazy, right? I mean, I marked one thing in particular in this chapter. And so Smoke Signals stars, the character of Victor's mother is played by the actress Tantoo Cardinal.
Oh, and we're going to spoil both movies, by the way.
Yeah.
So just be prepared.
So she's played by Tantoo Cardinal, and Tantoo Cardinal is never mentioned in Kathleen Norris's lead up to this, where she's talking about various other Native American films of the time.
Oh, doesn't she just have her last name
Exactly.
in there?
She says they feature fine performances by well-known actors such as Cardinal, Farmer, and Green, right? So Farmer and Green are Gary Farmer and Graham Greene, who she has discussed
Previously
already
mentioned, yeah,
in earlier pages, but she doesn't ever mention Tantoo Cardinal earlier. And so here she is just referring to Tantoo Cardinal by her last name, like Cardinal, like she's Madonna or something, right? It's just Cardinal. So it's just, the writing is really, really lazy at times, which is incredibly disappointing because these are 2 bright writers, right? Kathleen Norris is very famous for her book, The Cloister Walk.
Subtitle of this book is A Cinematic Journey to a Deeper Spirituality. And I don't feel like they're doing that at all. I mean, so this chapter is about community.
As far as community goes, so when I think of community as something that is aspirational, right? So there's a film that my brother really loves called It's My Party. It came out in the late 90s. Stars Julia Roberts' brother, Eric Roberts. And there's a scene in that film, right? So there's a man who's dying, and he's going to end his own life, and he decides to have all the people that he loves come together for a celebration before he does that. And in that film, one of the characters at one point says, that's the beautiful thing about the gay community is that you choose your family, and I think that's what community is, regardless of what your sexual orientation is, what your religion is, what your race is, et cetera, et cetera. I think that that we find the people who will challenge us and who will preserve us, protect us, and we bond together. And that's ideally what it is, right? In our minds, right? Like if we have an image of what community should be, and then we try to make it that image in real life. And the documentary that we watched, The Seventh Fire,
yes,
right? it's difficult to remember the title because the title makes no sense as a title for the film.
No reference in the film.
Yeah, man, it's just
brutal.
bleak. It is. It's a really difficult film to watch, and like Kelly said, it's obviously the truth, but there are no examples in that film of people holding each other up, holding each other accountable, helping each other, loving each other even. Like there's none of that. Like it's just ugliness. And
well, and I mean, again,
it's like they chose that film ironically. Irony. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, and Smoke Signals is a really fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, definitely seek it out somewhere. Aside from a really terrible wig in this film, it's a delightful movie about two young men who are growing up on the Coeur d'Alene reservation in Idaho,
yeah.
Idaho, and maybe Washington, and they're kind of bonded by this event that takes place at the beginning of the film, but I mean they don't like. Thomas really likes Victor as a friend, wants to. He's always telling stories and things like that, and has this very like unique look. Whereas Victor is, the basketball player and beautiful.
I think he's embarrassed by Thomas.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, and so again, spoiler. But Victor's dad dies, and somebody calls his mom to tell them because it's in another state.
Yeah,
and
he's estranged. He left them.
Yeah, he left them
10 years
and
before.
And so anyway, so Victor can't actually get to his dad without Thomas's help. And Thomas says, like, you just have to take me with you, And anyway, so they go in part to get his dad's vehicle, I think. But, like, when they get there, they're like, Victor's like, where's my dad? And this woman brings out, like, a canister of ashes. And you're not really expecting that. Or at least I wasn't.
I don't know. I've seen it so many times.
You've seen it so many times. But anyway, and again, I felt like in the book, like she says like they plan on what they're gonna do with his ashes, and there's no conversation. It just takes place. It's just a moment in the film that just happens, But it's a wonderful movie. But I don't think it's like the best movie about community, right? It's about two young men taking a road trip, their arguments, their disagreements, and their friendship.
I think it is a good film about community, though. I wouldn't have thought of it as such before this project that we're doing, going into it knowing that it was chosen with this theme in mind. But, I think about the scene where Victor's mom, she's trying to persuade him to take Thomas's charity, right? To take Thomas along. And she says, I may make the best fry bread, but it's not just me, right? Like it's my grandmother's recipe, and she got it from her grandmother, etc. So it's a web of people who are responsible for it. And so there are anecdotes like that
right, and there's definitely
the
like stories that Thomas tells that again kind of evoke the community of life on the reservation, and
Thomas's stories.
Yeah, I do too. He always like puts his hands together and
closes his
eyes, and so I mean it's a really good movie. I'm just again I think there could have been just I don't know. I question the choices.
So one thing that I wanted to say, one additional thing I wanted to say about Community and Smoke Signals, is that I think the film does a good job of reminding us that communities. So Kathleen Norris talks about how they can be transitory, right? Like you're stuck with a bunch of other people in an airport waiting for a plane for 10 hours or something, right? So yeah, community can spring up like that. And I think Smoke Signals does a good job of that. There's a car accident near the end of the film, and the two main characters crash their truck to avoid the car accident. And there's a drunk guy, and there's various people who are injured, and they're out in the middle of nowhere. And in that moment, somehow, I feel like the victims of this accident are bonded together, like they become a kind of community, in ways where like they look out for each other. Victor goes running for help, right? And I mean, who knows how many miles he runs before he collapses. And then he's actually picked up by a road worker who recognizes that he's exhausted and is supporting him, and then we see catch up with all these people in the hospital, and the drunk guy's trying to pin the whole thing on Victor and Thomas, but the other people have their backs, including the drunk guy's wife, right? I love when Tom's scared. When Tom's scared, it's like, I have another statement here from, Penguin, who says, my husband is, and I quote, a complete asshole. Sorry. But, so I love that Smoke Signals does that, right? Like in sometimes in moments or in situations of duress or stress or trauma, people can temporarily kind of bond together and help each other and support
and just
each other.
A literary connection to Smoke Signals. It definitely did Sherman Alexie write the screenplay?
I think he did, yeah.
And it's definitely inspired by the Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven, his collection of short stories. So it's not like obviously that's a collection of short stories, so it's not a direct, but many of like Thomas's stories are stories that are in that book. But and then the other film is like we said, the other film is The Seventh Fire, which is really hard to remember because there's no connection to that whatsoever in the film. There's no mention of that. I don't know what the Seventh Fire is.
Yeah. Nothing.
I have no idea. But it's about a younger man and Rob. Rob is 37.
Yeah, he's almost 40. Yeah.
And Kevin is late
15,
teens.
17.
Oh, okay.
Teenager.
Anyway, and Rob has been in prison
for 12 years, I think.
Right.
He's getting ready to go in for an additional 3.
Something like that. And I mean, again, don't get me wrong, he, as a child, he was moved from foster home to what was like 10 different foster homes or something like that?
No, it was 39.
Oh my gosh. It was,
I think is what the number was.
And he was physically and sexually abused, which he did report, but it didn't seem to make any difference. So, I mean, again, it's not surprising that he's grown up into, his girlfriend is pregnant, and then the night before he's supposed to go back to jail because they gave him like a week-long furlough or something like that. He's telling this other woman that he wants to do anything and everything that night, and it's just, I don't know. There's just it's just chaos.
It's chaos, and it's also these are two people, because it's a documentary. These are two people who there is no growth at all. It's a portrait of people who, and I suppose maybe that's the point. It's a portrait of people who are stuck in a certain place at a certain time, and who, I don't know, see no way out, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, like, the marketing of it and the discussion of it in this book make it seem as though they're trying to find a way out, and they're trying to reconnect with the spirituality of their. And no, there's none of that really.
Yeah, the younger man, Kevin, is interested in this group that I can't remember the name of it. I know it's in here, but like that does like use, teach young people what Native American like culture and
like
healing.
reacquaints them with
that's a good word, with Native culture and healing and trying to get them, sober and that sort of thing. But it makes it the book makes it sound like, oh, they're like, I mean, Rob, the older guy, never portrays any kind of interest in that. Mm-hmm. And he's all about his writing. Most of this chapter, Kathleen Norris wrote. Gareth Higgins wrote a very tiny piece. Yeah. But I thought one of the things that he said is the best communities are not just a safety net in times of trouble, but also help prevent trouble in the first place. And I totally agree with that, but that is not portrayed in The Seventh Fire.
Yeah, not at all.
At all. It is bleak. Yeah, I mean, like, even people who are, relatives, like, of the younger man, Kevin, he's just, like, he's a really great liar, and I've kind of stopped trying to figure out when he's lying and when he's telling the truth, and...
Well, almost everyone in that film is doing drugs or dealing drugs, and it shows them doing drugs and dealing drugs.
Yeah, like,
so shows people like handing a baby off while they do a line of cocaine.
Doing cocaine, yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's just anyway. Yeah. So again, it was a bleak portrayal of Community.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there are stories about Community that can show how difficult life is on a reservation, but can still show something positive.
Well, yeah, I was telling Kelly last night that after we watched that film that, so Chloe Zhao, who directed Nomadland, right? So her first feature film was called, I think it's called Songs My Brother Taught Me. And it's set up in the Dakotas on a reservation. It's a coming of age story, and it's a much better film along these lines than The Seventh Fire is. There's a film called I think it's called War Pony that was co-directed by Riley Keough, who's Elvis Presley's granddaughter, and I think a young Native American woman. I think. And it's set on a reservation, and it's about these young boys, right, coming of age, and better film on this subject than The Seventh Fire.
If you're looking for a film about Community, Jason, what would you recommend?
So I'm gonna name two films that I think are great movies about Community. One is actually in the back of the book, right, as a further viewing. It's one of the films that they actually choose to introduce people to. And it's a Swedish film called Together, right? The Swedish title is Tillsammans. But it's known in the English-speaking world as Together. It came out in the year 2000. I saw it in the cinema when it came out. It's about a commune in the 1970s. And it's hilarious and heartbreaking and beautiful, and I love that film so much. It was one of the best movie-going experiences of my life. It might have actually been the best movie-going experience of my life. I remember how I was dressed and everything about it.
Without me,
well,
how could it be the best movie viewing experience of your life?
It was great. I mean, it was. So when I saw that in the cinema, when I saw it Together in the cinema, as soon as the screen, I think it does, instead of going to black, I think it goes to red, and as soon as the credits started rolling, and it was a packed house, right? Because it was part of an art film series, and so it's like all these people, who have subscriptions to this thing, and it's at the Lincoln Theater in Cheyenne, and the audience burst into applause, and that's the first time in my life, still maybe the only time in my life that's happened, where everyone just erupted, and I did as well, right? I mean, you're just filled with a kind of flood of joy at the end of that movie. And then my other example, I would say, is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's It's a Wonderful Life. And I'm sure all of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it,
it's okay. It's okay if you haven't
must
seen
watch it.
I was late in my life to seeing it. But
Yeah,
yes.
Kelly had not. When we got married, she had not seen it. A long story. We won't get into the story about why, but yeah, it's a movie we watch every year. I've seen it I don't know how many times, and it's so moving and so beautiful, and it's one of the greatest movies ever made. So yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. And before we get on to your choices, I did want to mention, since I was talking about Together and seeing that in the cinema, I also saw Smoke Signals. So it wasn't in a movie theater. The American Indian Studies program at the UW they did a screening. Yeah, University of Wyoming. They did a screening of Smoke Signals, and they brought the director of the film, Chris Eyre. So I actually
agreed.
That's
the wig was bad.
I agreed the wig was bad. That's the only time in my life I've ever seen a major feature film in a screening room with the person who made it. Right, like that kind of thing happens a lot in London and New York and stuff, but not in Laramie, Wyoming. And so that was cool, getting to hear him talk about it afterward. Yeah, but anyway, what are your examples of?
Well,
community?
I'm just gonna bring up one, but so I just felt like after we got done watching The Seventh Fire last night, I mean I should have been in tears. I should have been crying, but I mean it's very hard to feel like the filmmakers do not do a good job of making you feel empathetic for the characters, which they should, right? I mean, or I feel like they should anyway. So we were just chit-chatting at certain like pauses in the movie, and Jason reminded me of, and I know I've talked about this on my channel before, the Netflix documentary, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn. And as soon as we were done, Jason went into the other room, and for some reason I just found myself like, I was like, almost like I wasn't in control of my body. I was just grabbed the remote, went to Netflix, found the movie, and I ended up watching the whole documentary again. And I cried like 4 times in it. And I think it is such a strong film about community. Now, that movie had not come out when they wrote A Whole Life in 12 Movies, so they couldn't have chosen that. I get it. But I think especially for those of us on BookTube, you know, it's a way to see like the things that you do in a virtual space where you may never see the other person, where you may never even know what they look like. This young man, Mats Steen, in Norway, he's born with a very rare muscular disease called Duchenne, I think. Is that?
I'm not sure.
And so anyway, so the first part of the movie, you see what his family sees, right? And you know, every kind of different assistive technology, as his muscles and his body just slowly breaks down. And anyway, so they let him game, and the longer, you know, the longer his life goes on, the more time he spends in World of Warcraft. And I don't know very much about World of Warcraft, but he was part of a community on there called Starlight. But he lives this really rich life. It seems to me like in this game. It makes me think a lot about BookTube and how we often don't realize the impact that we have on other people. That would be my big recommendation as far as thinking about community and what is community and what can it look like. And yeah, it's just a really, really amazing documentary. So anyway, next month we only have one movie to watch, and it's one of Jason's favorite movies. So we have, not only do we have it on DVD, but we have the Criterion edition.
It's the Blu-ray, not the DVD.
But it's the Criterion.
Yeah, but it's the Blu-ray.
Oh, all right. Okay, I'm sorry. Blu-ray of The Fisher King. So this stars Jeff Bridges, Robin Williams.
What's the theme?
The theme is the breaking and remaking of self.
Which The Fisher King is a terrific example.
Right. It seems like a good fit for that. So, well, we would love to hear about what movies you think really demonstrate community, or if you've seen any of the films that we've mentioned in this video. What were your thoughts? What did you think about them? If you can shed some light for us on The Seventh Fire, that would be great. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. As always, if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, you can leave an emoji or you can give this video a thumbs up. So thank you so much for watching. We look forward to engaging with you in the comment section down below. BookTube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.
Adios.
Do your little wave. All right.